Hey guys, today we're gonna talk about how the UFC must increase fighters' pay. I was very grateful when our professor allowed us to choose whatever topic we wanted to that would be interesting to us. I chose this because I'm a big fan of the UFC. My dad actually fought for the UFC for over 20 years, so I feel like I've always kind of been part of the UFC. Love the UFC. Um, Really, it's been really cool to see the growth of the company, but I wanted to talk about how I think that they should increase the fighters' pay. It's something that not a lot of people talk about, but it's something that I think should definitely be changed. So let's go ahead and get started with the slide one, my introduction. Imagine dedicating your life to a sport that leaves you injured, yet your earnings barely cover the medical bills. My main argument here is that the UFC must raise its fighters' wages to match its booming revenue, extreme risks, and global popularity. As fans of fairness, we all want athletes to be paid what they deserve. Key points here. The revenue gap between the UFC and the fighters. Number two, the physical and financial dangers fighters face. And number three, the long-term benefits of fair pay for both the fighters and the sport. Revenue gap. The UFC earned over 1 billion in 2023 according to Forbes. Fighters only received 15% of that revenue versus 50% in the NFL and the NBA. That's an enormous difference. And the crazy thing is that the UFC is up there with these big organizations like the NFL, NBA, MLB, and the revenue gap between the fighters and the other athletes is just incredible. 15% to 50%, that's nuts for me. And this shows that the fighters aren't benefiting from the sport's growth. Each year, the sport is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. The UFC just signed a huge deal with Paramount. I believe it's a $1 billion. It's a TV right deal that it's $1 billion a year, which is just crazy. Um, let's go to the next slide here. Physical and financial risks. Fighters, they have to pay for training, nutrition, and medical expenses outside of their own pocket. Out of their own pocket. The high risks of concussion, chronic injuries, and lack of health insurances. Despite these risks, most fighters lack financial security, especially for the long term. Benefits of increase in pay. Fair pay attracts better talent and supports longer and healthier careers, especially for their superstar guys. You know, the superstar guys, the UFC wants them to remain healthy and fighting for as long as possible because they're bringing them money. It also improves public perception and brand loyalty. It encourages more sponsorships and global respect from and for the UFC. Ethical and economic impact. Ethically, the right to reward those risking their bodies, literally putting their bodies and their life on the line for the sport. Higher pay leads to better performance and retention, strengthens UFC's image as fair modern sports organization. Ethical and my conclusion. The UFC has built a $1 billion empire on the backs of underpaid fighters. Increasing fighter pay is both the moral and strategic choice. If the UFC can afford $1 million marketing deals, it can afford to fairly pay those who make the fights and the event possible. The UFC is an incredible organization. But without the fighters, they are absolutely nothing. Just like the NFL, the NBA, the MLB, and all the other major organizations are nothing without the fighters and the athletes. This right here is my reference page for all of the sources and the information I received. Hope you guys enjoy the video. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.